Hi, hi. Oh my God, are we live? Why do I always do this? Why do I always do this? I think we're live. How are we, folks? Lovely to see you all again. I am diving in for a very quick episode with you guys. It was about time I started recording, wasn't it? I already started talking. This is just gonna be like a quick fire. My top foodie hacks. I'm a massive foodie. So I don't know if anyone's seen any of my recent posts, but I used to be a huge foodie even before I went plant-based, right? I loved eating out. I dined out all the time. I love wine. I love food. Who doesn't love food? Now, my problem is when I went plant-based is I thought I was going to have to give all of that up. I thought I was going to have to not enjoy going out for dinner and going out for wine and all of this. And that just was not the case. Since I have been plant-based, I have tried more flavors, more combinations, more cuisines, more textures. My repertoire of recipes has increased. I've been able to make my own 7-day and 28-day meal plan on as a PDF. But not only that, but I have actually constantly created week after week after week my own prep, my own meal plans. Going plant-based has actually increased my liking towards food, my imagination. And so I just wanted to kind of show and share with you some of my top tips and things that I have picked up along the way. You might pick up an extra hack here and there, but these are the things that have really helped me along my journey. They might not be mind-blowing, they might completely blow you away, and you might not have ever thought about them before. So might as well just go through them. So I've kind of split them into plant-based and weight loss, but that doesn't really mean that they don't cross over. And ultimately, plant-based and weight loss is both for benefiting your own overall health. So just because it's in weight loss doesn't mean that just because it's not in the weight loss section doesn't mean that because it's in the plant-based, it's not going to be unhealthy. They kind of cross over very easily. I just thought another thing to add to the list. I'm pretty much going to kind of like add to the list. I just wanted this to be nice and conversational. I didn't want it to be uptight. I've been doing too many videos and recording and stuff at the moment for something really secret and exciting. So I didn't want to do too many notes. I just wanted this to be nice and casual because girls had a busy few weeks, okay? So if you're watching this on live or replay, just type in live or replay in the chat so I know that you're watching. It'd be nice to know if anyone is around. I want you to pop in like your favorite recipe or your favorite food hack that you have. Share with the community your favorite food hack. Whether you're watching this on replay or live, please share with us what that is. I would love to know, and I'm sure everyone else would love to know too. So let's start with weight loss specific. Again, they do a lot of crossover. So to start with, if you haven't watched any of the videos before, if you're not a client, then you probably wouldn't know the magic meal plate combination that I do. You've seen most likely a lot of combinations that people kind of have for idealistically for food. So sometimes it's like split into quarters, and that's pretty much what me and my clients follow. And my partner, and we all eat super healthy, and we're all kind of on this health journey together. So my meal plate is kind of separated into 4. One of the quarters looks like green vegetables, and the other quarter looks like colored vegetables. So literally half of my plate is always veggies, low calorie, high nutrient value, so best bang for your buck. They're going to fill up more space in my belly, which is perfect for weight loss. Amazing for weight loss, amazing for overall health. I needed my water, but it's completely dead. Yeah, just a lot of best bang for your buck. So get half your plate of veggies, and then a quarter of your plate wants to be a starch. So you might be looking at pasta, rice, bulgur wheat, quinoa, whatever it is. That's going to be a quarter of your plate, and then the last quarter is going to be your plant-based protein. Now, granted, beans and chickpeas, for example, and lentils, they aren't necessarily a protein source in of itself. Because you're eating a plant-based diet, they are high in carbohydrates, but that's okay because they're also high in fiber and vitamins and minerals. So what happens there is that a plant-based diet is naturally high in carbohydrates, but because it's naturally high in fiber, if we're talking about whole foods plant-based, it doesn't really matter too much about your high intake of carbohydrates, but we want to increase the protein. So I'm going to talk about increasing protein in just a second, but a quarter of my plate I aim for my plant-based proteins. I don't want you to think of beans and lentils as like an entire protein source, but think that they have a higher amount of protein than other foods and other vegetables and other grains, because all grains have protein to an extent as well. So just think of them as a higher source of protein, not necessarily a source of protein as a be all and end all. Don't forget, you also have seitan if you're not whole food plant-based. If you're just plant-based, there's seitan option. And you've got tofu and tempeh, which is really good. I have just thought of another thing to mention. So that's the quarters that I usually follow and my clients follow. And then we need 1 to 2 tablespoons of fat at every meal. So just a little bit of whole fat. And what I mean by that is not oils. What I don't mean by that is cookies or biscuits or anything like that. What I do mean is whole fats. So something like nuts, seeds, nut and seed butters. So that includes like tahini, peanut butter, almond butter, cashew butter. You can make your own cashew cream with, which I'll explain in a minute, with cashews, and that includes that because it's a high amount of protein, high amount of fat. Sorry, I'll start talking soon. So when I'm looking at my fats, I'm at 1 to 2 tablespoons per meal. That is like the winning combination. If you are really want to dial in on your weight loss, we then would look at increasing your protein. So usually my magic meal plate is usually my meal plate is what I just mentioned. But if I need to cut back a little bit on calories without counting calories, what I would do is increase my protein source and decrease my starch source. So in other words, if I was having rice or pasta with something, I would reduce my rice or pasta and increase the protein source. So increase my tofu or my lentils or my beans, edamame beans, whatever my protein source is for the meal, I would always increase that. But I would never, and I say this wholeheartedly, I would never have a meal without a protein source. If you're on weight loss, never have a meal without a protein source. Protein is essential. It is a macronutrient. It is as essential as fats and carbohydrates, but they are going to keep you fuller for longer. So therefore, you're going to eat less just by changing what's on your plate. Simple as that. So the more protein, the higher protein you have, I just had another idea that popped into my head. The more protein you have at every meal, the more satiated you're going to be, the less likely you are to snack and overeat. So really important for weight loss, especially for maybe if you are like me and want to build muscle. Protein is really good for muscle synthesis as well. So again, you want to be replenishing as much protein as possible. Now, no, I'm going to come back to that in a minute. One little okay, so I keep having like little ideas coming off my head, and I want to make sure that I don't forget them. If you're watching, by the way, say hi, and I want to know what your like top food hacks are, your recipes, anything food related, pop it in here that you would like to let me know of that you do, please let me know. So we have changed the protein to starch ratio. Then I would also look at the difference in beans. So yes, you want variety, especially on a plant-based diet. You want to get as much variety as possible. That means choosing every different bean under the sun. But I would also opt for a bean that's higher in protein for the previous reasons. So a little tip and a little hack that I do is if it doesn't really matter what bean I go for in terms of variety, and it doesn't matter for the dish, I will look at the protein content on the back of the labels, because I can't remember off by heart every single protein content of every bean. And I would choose the one with a high amount of protein in it. So for example, if you get cannelli beans and butter beans, to me personally, they are like the same. They're like the same thing, almost the same thing to me, right? So I will turn them over, look at the back, and I have finally remembered that it's butter beans that have the higher amount of protein. Now you're looking at like, I think it's 6.5 versus 7.2. So it's like just under a gram of extra protein, and any extra gram does help. If you're looking at swapping your starches, quinoa is also another one that's slightly higher in protein, but not necessarily a source of protein. So most foods have protein in it somewhere, to some degree, to some level, but some have just a slightly higher level. So if you think about the phrase of like every little counts, that is literally what I look at in terms of where I can make my swaps. Moving on from protein, morning smoothies. Now I have just kind of hounded all of my clients because they seem to have forgotten that this is like one of the most ideal ways to lose weight. In the morning, if you make yourself up a green smoothie, so something nice and green, something nice and nutritious, and add a bunch of water to it and try and kind of bulk it out, that is a lot of fluid to have in your belly for a while. It's going to keep you full, especially if you add some natural healthy fats to it as well. It's going to keep you full for a long time, instead of eating a small amount that's calorie dense. And you're likely to kind of get hungry at the same time after having both of those anyway. Yet I guarantee you, if you have this the more calorie dense smaller thing, that's probably also going to spike your blood sugar levels, because it will probably be like a muffin or a bagel or oats, and that's going to spike your blood sugar levels from the get-go, which is kind of going to play with your blood sugar levels throughout the day, increasing your chances of snacking. So starting with a morning smoothie, definitely make it nice and green. So add in a lot of greens in there as well. Again, adding in as much greenery as you possibly can. And you can apply the magic meal plate kind of formula that I mentioned about, the quarters and the 1 to 2 tablespoons, to the smoothie as well. If you have any questions, please feel free to drop them in the chat. Just coming over, Candy, my favorite recipe is zucchini boats. I add black beans and no meat. I cut the zucchini in pieces and not as a boat. So what are they then? What are they then? Angie, hi. Oh, Angie's one of my new beta testing guinea pigs, and she's doing really well with the green smoothie. Hi, I love your green smoothie. I make a beetroot dip. Oh my God, that sounds so good. 250 grams cooked beetroot in natural juice blended with walnuts, olive oil, a little bit of lemon zest, and a sprinkle of garlic powder with a few sesame seeds mixed in. Great with pasta, salad. That's amazing. You have literally just made me think of a new thing. Amazing. So for weight loss, guys, thank you, Angie, for messaging that, because you have just made me think of something. I avoid oils like the plague. Like the plague. Okay. So oils are completely refined. They have been taken off of, they have been stripped of all other nutrients, water, fiber, and everything. So what you are left with is 100% fat. Something like peanut butter or tahini, it still has the nutrient density and the nutrients inside it as the whole food did, but oils have been stripped of that, and all that is left is the oil. So what you're left with is an extremely calorie dense substance that doesn't keep you satiated. Well, it might keep you satiated a little bit, but it doesn't keep it gives you an excess of calories, very quickly without filling you up. So therefore, you're eating 3 times the amount of calories that you would be if you were to not have oil. So that dip sounds amazing, Angie, but what I would do from what Angie just posted there is I would take out the oil and I would add water or brine. So one of the tips that I actually just wrote down, and I'm just going to cover it now anyway, is if you're making hummus or a bean dip, instead of using oil, use a little bit more tahini and use the broth or the brine, sorry, from the chickpeas. Okay. You can also make hummus with butter beans, for example. That's another good substitute if you're having a bit too many chickpeas in 1 week, for example. You can swap out the oil. So I would always, for weight loss, avoid oils. Okay. There is the misconception or talks out there that oils are really good for you. One, healthy fats are good for you. Yes, they are. In whole form, they are much better for you. You want as less of that hard hitting pure fat as possible on your body. I always avoid oils. Sometimes I'll use like the spray oils if I really need something, but I just don't keep them in the cupboard. Even coconut oils, they are still monounsaturated, so they're not the best oils by far, right? They still have the same sort of effect as most other oils. Coconut oil does. It has the benefits of the little bit of antioxidants and what have you, and the flavor, of course, but it's still 100% fat. So just be careful with those. Anyway, moving on. Another weight loss foodie tip is that I would always have water before food or snacks. So you just want to fill yourself up, because oftentimes you'll get confused between hunger and thirst. And this is so normal. We're not usually attuned to listening to our body. And I know it's so simple and you've probably heard it before, but it's something that I do and I wanted to share it with you. Always have a neck and skull, a big glass of water before you eat your food. When I'm eating my food, I will start with the fiber-rich foods first. So that pretty much looks like the veggies first. I'll start with. I want to start with the vegetables because I want to get as much as I can in. And if by the time I get to the end of my meal that I'm feeling full, what's left generally is the most calorie dense foods. So I'm kind of going from like a lower calorie to a higher calorie order. Now, I don't obsess about this. Yes, I do mix foods on my plate, but I try and finish my vegetables first, especially if I know that I've got a big plate and I'm probably going to get full before I finish it. I would usually opt for my veggies first and then work my way through to the heaviest starch. But again, that doesn't mean that I don't eat the starch. It doesn't mean that I don't eat potatoes. Potatoes are really freaking good for you. It doesn't mean that I don't eat rice or pasta or anything like that. I just start with what I know is best for me in that moment, and that's usually vegetables. With the fiber as well, it kind of goes out into the stomach, it lines the stomach, and so it actually reduces the glycemic spike that you get when you consume the rest of your like high starch foods. So it actually lowers that blood sugar spike as well. So it kind of keeps you ticking over better for the rest of the day. Let me know if that makes sense. I might not have said it in a way that makes sense. For some, this is highly controversial, especially because I promote a whole food plant-based diet. For some instances, some people and myself, I do use a protein powder, but I don't promote it. I don't tell my clients, and actually, I want all of my, if any of my clients are watching this, please tell me if I've ever told you to have a protein shake, because I don't usually recommend it because I advocate a whole food plant-based diet. But I do consume protein powder because I want to build muscle, not just not have a naturally lean body, but I want to build muscle, right? I want to add muscle to my body. So for me, it's much more convenient It's easy. I know the rest of my diet like the back of my hand. I know what I eat. I know that I have a balanced diet. It adds to flavor, and it adds to kind of takes out a lot of effort and a lot of ease. It makes things easier for me. So I do have protein powder. The reason why I don't promote it is because I feel like the whole protein market is completely oversaturated with all of this bullshit about how you need all of this protein, how you need so much. Realistically, you only need a gram per kilo of body weight. So say I'm about 64, 65 kg, which I don't know because I haven't weighed myself in yonks. I usually fluctuate around 62 to 65 kg. So say I'm about 63 kg, that means I only need 63 grams of protein. That is easily reachable with the previous steps that I've already mentioned. So I've already talked about eating the protein first, opting for higher sources of protein. So with all of those in combination, I always reach my protein needs anyway, especially because I will always have a source of protein at every meal and every snack. But I also do add that extra scoop of protein for a low calorie alternative. I'm not going to sit here and tell you that you need protein, because you definitely don't. For me, it complements. It doesn't take place of anything that I'm missing. And that is actually the key point. I'm glad I mentioned that. That is the key point. If you use protein powder, you need to make sure that you are not taking anything away. So if you're using protein powder, would that have been the time that you would get a new vegetable or a new grain or a new source, or like a new lentil or a chickpea in your diet? If you're using it to add, that's totally fine. But if you're using it in replacement, I don't like that. And that's not necessarily sustainable. And I don't want people to be dependent on products. Anyway, I think I've said my piece on protein powder. Yes, sometimes I use protein. No, actually, most days I will have a scoop of protein powder, but that's it. And that's mainly because I want to build muscle, because I want to be lean and I want more muscles. That's why. Talking about fats and proteins, one of my points that I wanted to make was tahini and peanut butter. Oh my God, these things are amazing. And yes, they are plant-based, and yes, they will help you lose weight. But important side note for weight loss, folks, and I will get onto all the plant-based stuff in a moment. These butters, so nut butters and seed butters, so tahini, peanut butter, almond butter, they are high in fats. So yes, they are essential to have. The fats are essential to have, and we need them in our diet, but it's really easy to overconsume the amount of calories that you need. And I'm all about not counting calories. So what I would recommend is making sure that your fats, you're very clued up with where your fats come from, and that you only get 1 to 2 tablespoons per meal. So this literally means about 27 grams of protein, of peanut butter on your toast, if you have toast, or on your bagel, or in your breakfast, in your oats. So just make sure that you have a very small amount of those, because they are high in fats. For weight loss, it's just ideal just to keep an eye on it, okay? You don't need to obsess about it again, but it's really easy to overconsume calories if you're eating peanut butter like by the ladleful, like I literally can, okay? Another tip for why weight loss? Another foodie tip that I've got is visit all of the foreign grocery stores. So I am very grateful that where I live, and I've said this before, there are a lot of different what's the word? There are a lot of different, I can't think of the word, a lot of different shops around there that offer different foods from the world, right? So I've got like a Polish shop, we've got an Oriental shop, we've got a Middle Eastern shop, and they're all very close to where we are. So have a look around, have a look on Google, have a quick search. Are there any alternative or whole food shops around you? Because usually you can find products from those countries a lot cheaper in these shops than you can in your main grocery store, where you might find like a foreign foods aisle kind of thing. And usually they are a little bit cheaper in those shops. Anyway, so my next few tips are plant-based. Again, doesn't necessarily mean that they're not weight loss, but I just wanted to split it up a little bit. So one of my kind of things that I'm really all about at the moment are my cheese recipes. So I really am starting to get obsessed with nutritional yeast. Well, no, I've always been obsessed with it. I really love it and it tastes really good. So I've been making this like I don't know if anyone's seen, but the nacho cheese is kind of like a queso cheese. So I basically blend cashews and a vegetable. So I try and get a vegetable in there. So whether it's carrot or red pepper, something that's kind of that color to give it a nice color. So blend boiled vegetable, onion, garlic, and cashews. So you want to boil those for about 15 minutes, blend them up, add a little bit of turmeric, a little bit of paprika, a little bit of salt, a bunch of nutritional yeast, apple cider vinegar, and this adds like a really nice creamy cheese consistency and flavor. Add water to thin it out so you get more of a runny sauce if you wish, and just blend the hell out of it. Just blend the hell out of it, and it goes really nice and creamy and gooey. It's really nice on burrito bowls, it's nice on pizza, it's nice as a dip, it's nice on anything really. Pasta, really good. So if you are wanting some sort of like cheesy sauce or a creamy sauce, soaked cashews, so you either soak them for a couple of hours or you can boil them for 15 minutes, blend it up, and then add your extras. So nutritional yeast is going to be the base of most cheese sauces. You can do a tahini base with lots of water, tahini and nutritional yeast, but again, higher in calories. I would probably rather the cashews. Yeah, I think I'd rather the cashews, but the tahini does add a nice, really rich, cheesy flavor to it. So cheese sauces at the moment are my thing, and you can definitely make them on a whole food plant-based diet for sure. With the plant-based foodie hacks, I also recommend rotating your meal plans and keeping them. How many times have you kind of written out what you're going to have for the week and then thrown that in the bin? Who's guilty of that? I was guilty of it for so long, and then I was like, hang on a minute. I've spent like 20 minutes, half an hour making an entire food plan for myself, and I've just thrown it away. When in 8 weeks' time, I could pull that out of the drawer and bam, I've got a week's meal plan without even having to think about anything. So when you make your meal plans ahead of time, write them down on a piece of paper and keep them in a folder, keep them in a drawer, keep them in a file, and rotate. So by the time a few weeks go past, a few months, go past, you've got a nice stack and you can just rotate, grab from the bottom, start again. But the thing is you can adapt them as well. You don't have to have exactly the same meals or the same ingredients. You can keep the meals the same, but change the type of starch that you're having with it. If you had that meal with rice before, have it with bulgur wheat. If you had it with pasta, have it with noodles instead. So you can kind of change up the ingredients there. You can change up the green vegetables. You can change up the colored vegetables. So even 8 weeks later, for example, you're still not having the same meal plan because you're still changing some of the ingredients. So it's still going to taste different. With plant-based, another foodie tip is to veganize your favorite dishes first. So this is kind of more of a tip for those who are starting to go plant-based or really struggling to add ideas. Just veganize your favorite meals. So for example, on my 7-day meal plan, which you've all been offered if you're already in here, if you don't have it, let me know, shoot me a message. There is a lentil bolognese. So basically you go with a regular meat dish that you would usually cook, and then you take out the meat and swap it for something else. The problem with people kind of veganizing things is they usually just take out the meat and they're sat there wondering why it's not as flavorsome or filling. You do need to replace that. So for example, in a chili or in a lentil bolognese, what I've done is taken out the meat and replaced it with lentils. And it's just as easy, really is just as easy. So start by veganizing your favorite dishes and work with one dish at a time. Don't overwhelm yourself. One thing that has really helped me going plant-based, really helped me, is buying the right kitchen equipment. I cannot freaking stress this enough. I literally cannot stress this enough. Getting a food processor and blender that grates and chops and blends really has helped me going plant-based. Beforehand, I think beforehand, because I didn't used to cook much, I didn't really experiment with those things. I just ate a lot of oven meals. I'd eat just like pasta and sauces, and I wouldn't really go out there and put myself out there. I'd never made homemade hummus or anything like that. But having this piece of kitchen equipment has really helped. And if you're interested, I'll tell you now. So it's a Ninja processor. It's like a food processor and blender all in one. I love it. It has really saved my life. It was an expensive buy, but it has completely revolutionized the way that I cook, the meals that I prepare, and my health. Because, for example, and money and time. Okay, so for example, if I was to go down to the store and buy hummus, I would spend about £3 on a small tub of hummus. My hummus would probably cost me about 75p, maybe. And I can make a huge tub, right? And I'll make a huge tub from it. And that's just using the blender. And you can save so much time by using the chopping elements of it. You can save time by using the grating side in the food processor. So you've got like a blade that comes with it. You can grate and you can slice. That has made so much difference to time. So getting the right kitchen equipment has really saved me a lot of time and a lot of money. I've bought a juicer. Sorry, I got gifted a juicer for my birthday, and that is definitely one of the things that have made a huge difference. I make my immunity juices. They're really tasty, but they're also a really good dose of anti-inflammatory properties, antioxidants, all of the things that I want and need to get me through the year. So making sure that you invest in the right kitchen equipment. Don't invest in shit stuff. I have had blender after blender after blender freaking break on me, which is why I broke, and I was like, I need to get an expensive one because the expensive ones actually last. Even one of my clients, like, she was like, my blender's broken, and that's because she told me, and she was like, yeah, I just bought a cheap one, but they keep breaking. So I found it really important to get a one that actually works. Anyway, smoothie bags. So because I mentioned about smoothies, don't forget that you can pre-pack all of your smoothie ingredients into a bag. Chuck it all in a bag, prepare it, have it in the freezer, ready to go. Quickest and easiest tip I can give you. Hummus and bean dips as a sauce. So this is one of my last things that I was going to note, is basically if I have a hummus or hummus made out of beans instead of chickpeas, some sort of dip, if I add lots of water to it and blend it down, it creates a cream, and you can use that for sauces, pasta sauce, butter bowl sauce, and it works really well. So that's, again, another one of my hacks. It increases the protein. So you've not just got a fat sauce as your sauce, a fat sauce. So your sauce isn't just fat, it's also got protein in there. I also use tofu, especially silken tofu. It creates a really nice creamy texture when you add things to it. Just on a side note, when you're making those creamy dishes, I did mention earlier, but nutritional yeast is always going to be a key ingredient, and nutritional yeast is generally really good for B12 as well. Vegans are known for easily going into B12 deficit, which is ridiculous because you don't need to. But I have so much nutritional yeast that I think that my B12 levels have always been fine. So you really can't OD it on nutritional yeast, just to let you know. But to make these cheesy and creamy sauces, I add nutritional yeast, lemon juice, sometimes a little bit of garlic, but apple cider vinegar. And depending on how much you want, you only need a little bit. And I'm talking like a teaspoon to a tablespoon, maybe 2 tablespoons if you're making a big batch of sauce. add a little bit and keep adding until you notice that tang. What the apple cider vinegar does is it creates that tang that like a cheesy sauce has. If you've been vegan for a long time, you've never tried a cheese sauce like this, like I say cheese loosely, right? You might notice the difference in a small amount of that apple cider vinegar and what that tanginess it gives to it. If you're used to it, then you might need a little bit more. So just start small and add a little bit as you go. They are all my foodie hacks that I can think of off the top of my head. Again, I wanted to make this nice and conversational. Let's go back. Candy. The zucchini dish has red onion, zucchini cut into pieces, cumin, chili powder, black beans, chopped tomato, cilantro, green onions. Oh my God, red enchilada sauce. This sounds delicious. Thank you for telling me about the oil. I use avocado oil and I did not know. Yeah, Candy. Really good point there. Avocado oil. People say this all the time. Avocado oil, olive oil. They're all really good, aren't they? And I say, why not have the whole sauce? Why not have the whole sauce of it? So if you're going to use avocado oil, you can use, this is another weight loss tip, guys. Instead of oil, use water or broth. So what I mean by that is you get your frying pan and instead of reaching for the oil, you reach for water. So what I might do is get a measuring jug, add a little bit of stock to it and add some water to that and just keep adding to my frying pan or my saucepan to like loosen the stuff on the bottom of the pan, and that will be a really good replacement instead of oil for no calories or next to no calories, and you still get to saute things, so you're not having to change up the way that you work with your food as well. Now Candy has said I use avocado oil. Avocado oil is probably one of the best oils if you literally have to categorize them. However, it is still oil and is still 100% fat. So what I would use there is the water and broth method. And if you're a butter fiend and you love butter, use avocado. Avocado is so rich in fats. It also has the fibers within it, but it's so rich in fat that you could literally just spread on your toast some avocado, and it adds the same sort of like texture and consistency as butter. Little sprinkle of salt. If you're going to have like butter on toast, then I would have avocado on toast with a little bit of salt. Angie, what about peanut butter powder? Do you know what? This is a good question. And this is something that has been on my mind for ages. And I want to try peanut butter powder. I have heard that peanut butter powder is lower in calories, but I don't know why. I'm assuming that they just dehydrate. I don't know how peanut butter is made. So that is a really good question. And I really want to get back to you on that. Because I don't know how it is made. And I don't know if they just dehydrate the peanuts, then it's going to be just the same as peanut butter. Because peanut butter, especially if you get peanut butter, guys, get whole peanut butter, like it's in 100% nuts. That's it. If they just dehydrate the nuts and then turn it into a powder, it's still the same amount of fats as there would be in a regular peanut butter. I don't know. I'm going to have to get back to you on that one. I've not looked into it. I love peanut butter, so I'd probably just eat that shit by the tablespoon. But I don't know. I'll find out. Excellent. If you have any questions, suggestions on some foodie tips, please drop them below. I would love to hear, and I'd love the community to see everyone else's food tips. Lovely for you guys to join us. Thank you for coming. Just kind of flirting around for a second, seeing if you guys have any more tips, tricks, hacks. Oh, just to let you know, I made a list of all my recommended protein supplements. The foods that I bulk buy from Amazon, the books, the kitchen gadgets, sleep aids, everything that's helped improve my health, save me time and save me money. I have compiled a list and put it on the list. So let me know if you would like that list and I will get it to you now. All right, guys, I'm going to toodles, skedaddle. I will see you later. Thank you so much for joining me. Bye.